I'm Isaac. I am going to tell you about the most expensive and cheapest cameras from 1888 to 1993. The Kodak Digital Science DC-50 zoom camera from 1996 was $899. The Brownie camera from 1900 to 1901 cost $1, and the Baby Brownie from 1934 to 1941 also cost $1. The Kodak Digital Science DC-50 zoom camera is basically the same as the Canon ES3000 but with better software. It came with a black and white text LCD for report basic camera statistics, but did not come with a graphical LCD for picture rear view. The Kodak Digital Science DC-50 zoom camera had a 756 by 504 pixel color CCD sensor, just like the Kodak DC-40. I'll tell you about the Brownie camera next. The first batch of about 15,000 Brownie cameras had push-on box lid backs, which were unreliable. The Brownie cameras were considered by many experts to be the most important camera ever manufactured. The reason is that it was produced so cheaply that anyone, not just professionals or people of means, can own it. Since it was so simple to use, anyone can operate it right out of the box. The film was also cheap even for the 20th century. For less than $2, anyone could buy the Brownie, a roll of film, and get it processed. The February 1900 trade circular lists a 6-exposure roll of transparent film at 15 cents, paper negative film at 10 cents, and 40 cents for processing them. The first Brownie camera was shipped on February 8, 1900, and gave birth to the Snapshot. And last but not least, the Baby Brownie. This small basic camera was made of backlight or polyoxybenzylmethylene glycol anhydride, with a frame viewfinder that flips up and a shutter operated by the lever under the lens.
Hi, I'm Will, and I will be telling you about the history of Kodak. In 1888, Eastman Kodak was founded by George Eastman in Rochester, New York. The company employed a whopping 50,000 people as the 21st century began. Today, Kodak employs only 19,000 people and filed for bankruptcy in 2012. Eastman trademarked the name Kodak because he liked the sound of it. In his own words, "The letter K had been a favorite of mine. It seemed like a strong sort of letter." Kodak, the company that created mass-market amateur photography, as well as producing film for movies, has also discovered and created the organic light-emitting diode displays. By the end of the 60s, Kodak had sales exceeding $4 billion, which adjusted for inflation would be approximately $50 billion in today's money. Kodak also provided film for John Glenn's orbit of Earth in 1962, as well as the Lunar Orbiter program in 1966. It was a Kodak researcher that created the first efficient organic light-emitting diode. Of the roughly 200 buildings that once stood on the 1,300-acre campus of Eastman Kodak's business park in Rochester, 80 have been demolished and 59 others sold.
Hi, I'm William Ramo, and I'm going to tell you about Kodak today. Eastman Kodak is a technology-based company. Though Kodak has been mostly known for its historical and photography, the company has served imaging needs of numerous industries since the early 1900s. Kodak's current portfolio is based on deep technology development over the years in material science, disposition, and digital imaging science. Kodak is focused on delivering imaging innovations for business. They're building on technology heritage to deliver sustainably comment. Since the early 1900s, Kodak's design strategy has looked for opportunities across the complete life cycle to provide annual product or serviceable value while enabling their customers' own sustainability strategies. Kodak also develops alternative energy in products like batteries, fuel cells, and solar panels, as well as biotech products like antibiotics, tissue regeneration film, and disposable sensors. With their technology in synthesis, refining, disposal, and handling of special chemical Both Kodak is also applied to the industries of biofuels and biochemistry. This is our report on Kodak, and thank you for watching.
And welcome to the Pink Puppy Show.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Melina.
Today we will tell you about the Eastman School of Music.
But first we'll start with some of the interviews with students and professors from Eastman. First we'll start with the students.
From a student, Brandon, we asked him, and another student,
what's your favorite part of Eastman?
And Brandon said, being able to study music.
And Georgia said her favorite part was?
Everyone I have met at school.
Now over to the professors.
First we'll start with Professor Yang. First we asked him, do you have a boss? If you do, who is it?
And Professor Yang said yes, the Dean of Eastman, Jamal Rossi.
And we also asked him, what do you teach?
And Professor Yang said cello and chamber music.
We also interviewed Professor Freer and asked her 2 questions.
And the first question we asked her was,
did you go to college at Eastman?
And she said yes, for 2 years.
And our second question is,
what's your favorite part of your job?
And Professor Freer said,
I get to meet lots of different students.
Now we will tell you a typical day of an Eastman student.
8 a.m., wake up.
9 a.m., practice.
10 a.m., report to admissions office for part-time study job.
12 p.m., quick lunch.
12:30 p.m., humanities class.
1:30 p.m., piano class.
3:45 p.m., orchestra.
5:30 p.m., dinner, homework, practice time.
And that was a typical Eastman student's day.
That's a busy day. Now for the facts.
First, Eastman is really hard to get into. Only 900 kids get in. That's not much for college, but a lot for elementary school. 900 kids is also equal to 13% of the people who applied.
Crazy, right? There are approximately 500 undergraduates and 400 graduates.
And also, Eastman was founded in 1921.
That's a long time ago. Did you know that Eastman is a part of the University of Rochester except
in a completely different spot?
Last, Eastman is located in downtown Rochester.
So we also went on a tour.
On our tour, we saw 3 concert halls.
First, we saw Eastman Theater, the largest theater.
Eastman Theater has 3 chandeliers.
There are 2 chandeliers that are made out of
wash buckets. It's crazy, right?
But there really is a chandelier made out of crystal.
Eastman Theater used to be a movie theater.
That's so cool.
Also, George Eastman had his own lounge in the back of the theater.
It was so when he got tired of the movie, he could relax back there.
George Eastman was so lucky.
I wish I were him.
2,200 people can be seated in Eastman Theater.
Wow. The second concert hall is Kilbourne Hall.
Kilbourne Hall is the middle-sized hall.
It seats 450 people.
And the smallest hall is Hatch Hall.
Hatch Hall seats 200 people.
That's nothing compared to Eastman Theater, which seats 2,000 more people. Eastman Theater seats 2,200 people.
Outside of Hatch Hall, there is a gift shop and box office.
There is oval stairs and an oval lobby. In the oval lobby, there's an old box office. That's so cool.
Another chandelier is the mermaid chandelier. We call it that, but it's actually a glass-blown chandelier.
The mermaid chandelier is blue glass that looks like a mermaid's hair.
Well, actually, the chandelier is just a hanging sculpture, and lights shine on it, so it looks like it's lit up.
The mermaid chandelier is so pretty.
Did you know in the basement there are little practice rooms? Those rooms are called annex practice rooms. That's just where Eastman students spend a lot of time practicing their instruments.
Also, in the annex, there are big rooms for big instruments and smaller rooms for smaller instruments.
And that was our report on the Eastman School of Music.
Thanks for watching the Pink Puppy Show.
Sydney.
And I'm Tess.
And we're here to talk to you about lilacs.
First, we'll start off with some basic facts. Lilacs originated in Japan and they come in 7 colors. Now some basic facts about the Lilac Festival. The Lilac Festival takes place in the first and second weeks of May. Many things happen at the Lilac Festival, such as singing, music, and dancing, and other activities include the Lilac Queen Contest, horse-drawn carriage rides, concerts, and lots of food. The botanical name for lilacs is syringa, which is from the Greek word syrinx, which means a pipe.
The name was given because the stem is quite pithy and can be hollowed out. Lilacs are hardy, long-lived plants. As a result, civilizations around the world plant lilacs for their carefree beauty and pleasant scent. Today in America, lilacs mark many abandoned and decayed homesteads. Every spring they bloom, memorial markers to dooryards long gone. Settlers planted them for one essential purpose, to create a bit of beauty in the rugged and difficult existence. When settlers were gone, the lilacs continued their singular chore of giving us a brief glimpse of beauty every spring. The scent of lilacs is one that lingers in memory and as such has been used in perfume and many other scented products.
It is said that the wood of the lilac bush retains the odor of the blossoms, and when old lilac bushes are burned, they give off the scent of lilac. Common lilac bear thick clusters of lavender flowers at the end of their branches every spring. The leaves of lilacs are distinctively heart-shaped and a dark green. The shrub grows about 15 feet tall and 12 feet wide. There are other varieties of lilac from different continents and improved forms of the common lilac. The other varieties differ in color, ranging from white to pink to a dark purple. Some even have double flowers. Lilacs are not a particularly attractive plant, except in the spring when they are blooming, so it is a good idea to place them in the background of the garden. There is a tendency to plant them in shrub borders, but they can appear rather weedy when used in such a manner.
Their blossoms make sweet, carefree bouquets. 3,000 people gathered one Sunday in 1898 to see the lilacs. This number increased to 25,000 on a lilac Sunday a decade later. The lilac is known as the queen of shrubs.
The name lilac itself comes from Persea, from the word lilac, which means flower. Other old names for lilacs are blue pipe trees, princess feather, and duck's bill.
In 1563, lilacs were brought to France from Constantinople. The fine for picking lilacs in Highland Park is $25.
And that is our presentation on lilacs. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Ryder.
And I'm Jaden.
We're the RJ Reporters.
We will be talking about the Great Fire of Rochester, New York, 1904. In this fire, no one was injured except for Assistant Chief Frank A. Janus, who was hit by a flying nozzle. Now, let's start at the very beginning.
The fire started in the basement of the Rochester Dry Goods Company. The night watchman, Thomas Connors, was the first to discover it. The fire was discovered soon after it started, but spread so quickly that by the time an alarm was sounded, the whole front of the store was a mass of flames.
The fire was so big that Rochester was using help from most fire departments there, but they also had to use Syracuse and Buffalo's help.
The next building destroyed was the Beadle and Sherburne Company. Now we will tell you the other buildings destroyed. Number 1, the Granite Building. Number 2, the Marble Building. Number 3, the Cornwall Building. 4, the Curley Building. Lastly, the Sibley, Lindsay, and Kerr Company.
Because of this fire, Rochester lost about $5 million. That represents all building stock and furniture.
And that was back then, people. The power of a trolley line was cut off to avoid danger from electricity. Also, all the traffic at the time had been stopped and was resumed a few days later.
The burned area lies on the north side of Main Street between Paul Street and Clinton Avenue.
Well, there you have it. This was the most tragical fire in the history of
Rochester.
Hi, I'm Tyler, and I'm going to be telling you about the Great Flood of Rochester. It started just as the Civil War was ending, March 17, 1865. Guess what? It happened on St. Patrick's Day. It raised 10 inches per hour. It was a very devastating flood when it struck Rochester. The flood caught the city by shock because it had become accustomed to reports of spring floods on the upper Genesee River and paid them little mind. It had rained for several days on the valley of the Genesee, and after a long winter of extreme cold and heavy snows, the dam broke and the waters were loose on Rochester. None of the previous floods, not even that of 1857, had risen so rapidly or to such a volume as that which now surged down the river into Rochester. It blocked the railroad embankment, and then suddenly the railroad embankment let down this great body of water on Rochester. The huge flood had a depth as far up as Mount Morris. Here's a fun fact. Did you know Rochester used to be called Flower City? And here's one more fun fact. Did you know that George Eastman got caught in the Great Flood, although he did not die? And that's my report on the Great Flood of Rochester.
I'm Corbin, and I will be talking about George Eastman. George Eastman was an amazing man. He simplified photography. When George was born on July 12, 1854, in the village of Waterville, New York. When George was not quite 6 years old, his father sold his nursery business and moved the family to Rochester so he could devote his entire time to the Eastman Commercial College. Life was normal, but suddenly his dad passed away, leaving the family very poor. Miss Eastman, George, and his 2 older sisters and brothers suffered hard times. Miss Eastman had to send the children to boarding schools. George continued school until he was 14. He was forced out of school because his family did not have enough money. He vowed to relieve his family's distress and to help out at home. To his family's relief, in 1874, he was hired as a junior clerk at the Rochester Savings Bank. George managed to get $3,000. Instead of using that money for his family, he used the money for his photographic business. At the age of 24, he decided he needed a vacation. He wanted to go to Santo Domingo. An engineer at the basement of the Rochester Savings Bank told him to make a photographic record of his trip. To know how to work a camera, he actually had to take lessons. Cameras back then were very hard to operate. He had to do something with mixing chemicals and putting them onto plates. A camera back then was very sophisticated. Soon, George decided not to take the Santo Domingo trip. Instead, he went to Mackinac Island. The photographic record completely made him absorbed in photography. He started making experiments, and he tried to simplify photography. In 1880, he went into business selling dry plates in a room above a music store. Eastman's career received a boost when E. and H.T. Anthony, the premier National Geographic supply distributor of the day, began buying his plates. Luck for him on his photography continued. Soon, in September 1881, he resigned as the junior clerk at the Rochester Savings Bank. In 1884, he hired William Hall Walker, a camera inventor and manufacturer, and they designed the Eastman Walker roll holder. It became the basis for the first Kodak camera, known as the roll holder Bruce camera. Kodak had begun. George Eastman died on March 14, 1932, at the age of 77.
Hi, I'm Alex Madden reporting for ESS News. Today I'll be talking about Sam Patch. Sam Patch's last jump was Friday 13th, 1829. This time he increased the height of his jump from 100 feet to 125 feet. There were nearly 7,000 people there to watch Sam do his jump. Sadly, Sam never swam up from the water. Scientists believe that he died because he jumped from too high, so he fell too fast into shallow waters. Although Sam had a great history of jumping, he made his first jump September 30th, 1827, in Paterson. It was actually an unexpected jump. He did it during the placing of the first bridge across the gorge. Ever since, Sam was inspired to do more jumps. Some people say Sam was born a jumper. Every day after Sam was finished with his work at the cotton mill, he would jump off the cotton mill. Today, they made a boat named after Sam Patch. That's how Sam Patch became such a great jumper.